About a year ago, we had a medic student at our station who came to do ride time with us. And over the course of him being there throughout that day, he was talking to myself and another guy that I work with back in the kitchen. And in the course of our discussion, he started telling us a story about how he had cheated the system and beat this fitness test. I don't remember if it was for a job or the military, but he was going on and on about this and was saying this in a way that he was very proud of the fact that he was able to get around it and not train for this fitness test, but still be able to pass it. Well, at the end of his story, I asked him, "Do you want to get into fire when you're done with medic school?" And he said, "Yeah, I think so." And I said, "Well, if you do, you're not going to work here because you're telling us right now what we need to know about you." So in this video, what I want to do is I want to lay out some, I guess I'll call them rules for riders. Many of you that watch this channel are EMT students or medic students or soon to be EMT students or medic students, or maybe you're volunteer firefighters and you're doing some ride times or some ride alongs at a full-time department. A lot of you are going to be spending time in firehouses and in fire departments, and I want to just give you some basic rules that you need to know going into this so that you can put your best foot forward. So let's get right into it. The first thing you need to do, especially if you're a student, because I get it, being a student's tough, being expected to do, dozens, if not hundreds of hours of EMS ride time at a local fire department. You're not getting paid. You probably have other things to do. It's awkward. It's tough. You're showing up in a new place. You're nervous. I get it. I was there too. I did it too. Everybody has had to do it at one point or another. But the first thing you need to do is you need to change the way that you think about how you approach this. I made this mistake when I was an EMT and medic student going into different fire departments. I approached it as this is something I have to do. This is something I have to get done. I just got to put the hours in so that I could fill out the piece of paper and turn it in so that I could finish medic school. The way you should be thinking about it, though, is that this is an opportunity for you. This is an opportunity for you to potentially get in front of future coworkers or future employers, or even if you don't get hired at that department. I promise you, the fire service, there's a lot of people in it, but it's a very small community and everybody knows everybody. So this is an opportunity for you to put your best foot forward, learn from them, but also impress them. Think of it like a long form interview. They get to see what you're all about. So change the way you approach your ride along time, whether it be for school or just general knowledge, as an opportunity for you to impress them. The next thing I want to talk about, and this is so important. I used to work at one of the local community colleges as an EMS instructor. I taught some of the labs. And I used to tell all of the students this. When you show up at a fire department, you really need to remember this. You are not a part of the crew. I don't care if you are friends with a whole bunch of people at that department, if you know some of the people at that department, there are inevitably going to be people there that you don't know, and you are not one of them. Don't go in there being too comfortable. Don't go in there making off-color jokes or getting engaged in the banter at the kitchen table. It's not going to be received well. You are not one of them, and you are not one of them yet, and you might be in the future. But for now, there's few things more off-putting than somebody that comes into a group and is just that loud, obnoxious, boisterous person, or even similarly to that, somebody that comes in and thinks that they own the place, kicks their feet up, just hangs out. Now, if people say, "Hey, why don't you come watch TV with us? Why don't you come do this? Why don't you come eat with us?" That's something totally different. But don't go in there acting like you're just one of the guys or one of the girls for the day. It's not going to be received well. The next thing I want to talk about is, especially if you're a student, if you don't know the answer to something, or you don't know how to do something, or you don't know where something is, or you don't know what's expected of you, just ask. I get it. When you show up at these places, like I said, you want to put your best foot forward, so you don't want to look stupid. You don't want to look like you're ignorant and you don't know what you're doing. But if you try to fake your way through it and pretend your way through it, people will figure it out. So especially if you're on a call and you don't know what's expected of you, just ask them, "Hey, how can I help? How can I get involved? What can I do?" If somebody asks you to do something and you're not comfortable with it, just say, "Hey, I'm not really sure how to do that. I'm sorry. Can I do something else?" If you don't know, ask. You're there to learn. You're there to get experience. That's the whole point of it. You might get that person at the department that gives you a hard time for doing that and expects you to know certain things. And I don't think that's really fair. But a lot of times you might get that one person at the department who really enjoys working with students or learners or new people. And when you're around somebody like that, get as much information from them as you can. So make sure that you ask them questions, especially if you don't know what's going on. The next thing, and this seems fairly obvious, is be respectful. This goes kind of hand in hand with the whole you're not a part of the crew yet. Think of this as you're going into somebody's house that you don't know, right? You don't walk into a stranger's house and act as though it's your own. You don't, chances are you probably take your shoes off, or you don't put your shoes on their couch, or you don't just go digging through their fridge or whatever. You treat those people with respect, and you're going to have to do the same thing when you show up at these fire departments. This is a lot of these people's essentially second home, second family, right? They spend a lot of time together, and when you come into that family environment, you need to be respectful to these people. Refer to the officers by their officer title, lieutenant, captain, chief, whoever's there. If you don't know, sir or ma'am is perfectly acceptable as well. Chances are they'll tell you, hey, you don't need to call me that, and then that's fine. But in the meantime, act as though you're walking into a house of people that you don't know. Be as respectful as you can. Next thing, be prepared. And so there's two things with this. When I say be prepared, if you're an EMS student, you don't need to be the person that has, 6 rolls of tape and a stethoscope and 5 pairs of trauma shears. You're not going to need it, okay? And quite honestly, it looks kind of silly. But do be prepared. Get an extra pair of gloves and throw them in your back pocket, right? Make sure you always have a pen on you. Simple little things like that. Make sure you wear a watch, because if somebody asks you to get a pulse rate or something. Just basic little things like that, be prepared. But also on top of that, if one of the people that you're going to be riding along with for the day says, hey, make sure you check out the bag and you know where things are. If you don't do that, and then you're out on a call and they say, hey, can you grab me, I don't know, the trauma shears from the bag, and you're fumbling around because you don't know what pocket that's in, well, that's on you. They told you to be prepared and you weren't. So make sure when you go and you have the time in the morning, especially during truck checks and things like that, that you check the trucks, you know where everything's at. Again, they're not going to expect you to know as much as somebody that works there, but at least familiarize yourself with it the best that you can. Next, be engaged and be attentive. Okay, this kind of, again, this kind of goes back to if you don't know, ask. If you're lucky, you're going to get one of those people that really likes working with students. I know where I work, several guys that I work with are EMS instructors. And so they're really good guys to learn from. They know quite a bit. Be engaged. If somebody's telling you something that you already know, that you already just went over in school, like let's say, for example, someone's saying, explain to you how to do a 12 lead, and you already know how to do a 12 lead, or how to do an IV, or how to start an IV, and you already know how to do that. Still pay attention. The last thing you want to do is when somebody is taking the time and the effort to invest into you, is to look at them and say, no, I already know what I'm doing. I don't care if you've been working in a private ambulance company for 20 years or a volunteer department for 20 years. Don't do that. It's a sign of respect. Be engaged and be attentive, because I promise you there's people at every department that have something that you can learn, and it's going to be good for you in the long run. And then finally, mind your appearance. This is so important, and I talk about this in all of my interview videos and just in general as well. You're not going to be expected, because you're a student, to obviously have the full uniform of everybody else that's there. But generally, some basic rules for your appearance are wear dark shoes. If you don't have boots, dark tennis shoes, I guess I'd prefer people have boots. That's usually the best way to go. Make sure they're black. Dark colored pants, obviously navy pants is the best. If you have station pants or the typical type of EMS cargo pants, those are fine too if that's all you have. Make sure you wear a black belt. Wear a dark polo shirt or a dark shirt. If you don't have a job shirt or something like that, or you don't have anything that's navy, even black or gray is fine. You want to wear as muted of colors as you possibly can. Don't show up in some silly hoodie, or I saw some guy that showed up in a hoodie. It was some kind of like skaterish brand or something like that that had anarchy symbols on it. Don't wear stuff like that. If you have your ears pierced and you're a guy, take your earrings out. Try to look as much like the crew that you will be with as possible. That's the idea. You want to blend in with these people while you're there. So make sure your appearance is as close to them as it can be, and make sure you look clean cut and well put together. So as always, I hope you guys found this useful and I hope you found this helpful. If you did, give this video a thumbs up, give it a like, consider subscribing to the channel, and I'll see you guys in the next video.